So, as you guys might have seen, Mario Chalmers, a former NBA champion, and teammate LeBron James set the NBA on fire with a very controversial take, as Chalmers said players in LeBron's era didn't fear him like Michael Jordan. Now, as you could imagine, these comments blew up and had Shannon Sharpe in absolute shambles.
All right, Shannon, jump in here. Is there any truth to what Mario Chalmers is saying?
No, that's his opinion. The question is, ask Magic Johnson, was he afraid of Mike? Ask Larry Bird, was he afraid of Mike? As a matter of fact, ask the Detroit Pistons, were they ever afraid of Michael Jordan? And I guarantee the answer would be no. Now, this is what we got. So I'm trying to figure out, Skip. So from the time LeBron broke through with the Heat, when he went to the Heat, so you mean to tell me a man that ran the Eastern Conference for 8 straight years, wasn't nobody afraid?
So stopping Shannon right there, his first point was bringing up the Pistons, Magic, and Larry Bird, and saying those players and teams did not fear Michael Jordan. So first off, fear, it is subjective. There's no measurement of fear and how fearful a player is. But looking at those eras, you deep dive into it, I think Jordan obviously was feared league-wide. As looking at Larry Bird, after Jordan dropped 60 on his team, he called MJ God. Magic Johnson, the best point guard in NBA history, refused to trash talk Jordan, only doing it once and learning the hard way to never do it again. And for the Pistons, I think 100% they feared Jordan, as their whole game plan and defensive strategy was to stop him, a one singular player. Indirectly, it's pretty obvious, even players in the 80s, before Jordan was winning, feared his game and his overall ability. And these players aren't just average guys or even all-stars, they are first ballot Hall of Famers with multiple championships. And Shannon's second point talked about LeBron James in the Eastern Conference making 8 straight finals. And while that is true, and LeBron was dominant, that Eastern Conference objectively was pretty weak. Compared to the West, where it was an absolute gauntlet where some years you had 7 or 8 teams winning 50 plus games. And when it comes to LeBron James, of course, he has lost numerous finals. His 2 most embarrassing losses being 07 and 2011. When you lose in the NBA Finals on the biggest stage, the overall mystique and aura of that player is heavily diminished, compared to someone like Jordan, who in the finals never lost. And to be clear, I'm not saying LeBron James wasn't feared, but compared to Jordan, the fear factor isn't comparable. As looking at prime Jordan, from 91 to 98, in his era, he dominated like no other, going 6-0 versus the West, 19-1 versus the East, beating 9 50-win teams and 7 60-win teams. To put it quite simply, LeBron in his prime ran a conference, compared to Jordan in his prime, who ran an entire league. And at the core of it, that's why Jordan was more feared than LeBron James.
Now, this is what Paul George said after being eliminated by the LeBron 4 or 6 times. He says it's real frustrating to continue losing to the same team or the same person. It's real frustrating. Ask Danny Ainge, why did he put the big 3 together? Okay, ask the New Jersey Nets, why they gave up what they gave up to get Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, to pair them with Joe Johnson and Darren Williams. Why would they do that, Skip?
Now, stopping Shannon right there, like with most LeBron James fans, correlation does not equal causation. And looking at the 08 Celtics, yes, at that time period, they assembled a super team. But by them doing that, they weren't fearing LeBron James, as LeBron at that point had not even won a championship, let alone a single finals game. And to make a more general point, when a team assembles multiple superstars, all-stars, they are doing that to win a championship, not because they fear a player or a team. And Shannon did cite Paul George as one player LeBron James beat multiple times, but for PG, he not once said he feared LeBron James. What he said is that losing LeBron James was frustrating. Compared to Jordan's era, where players legitimately feared him and wouldn't dare talk trash to him. And speaking of great Pacers players, look at Reggie Miller. There's iconic stories of him refusing to talk trash to quote-unquote Black Jesus. And the one time he did, Jordan shut him down and dropped 40. Compared to this year, where LeBron James was outplayed and beat by a rookie Benedict Mathurin who called him out during the off-season. And speaking of rookies, a young Kevin Garnett was definitely fearless. But when it came to Jordan, trash-talking him didn't go well. As J.R. Ryder has a famous story of MJ killing a naive Timberwolves team. After that, Garnett never once trash-talked Mike again. And even a couple years ago, Charles Barkley asked Shaq point blank, "Did you fear MJ?" And Shaq said flat out, yes, he was terrified. That is Shaquille O'Neal, the Big Diesel, one of the best centers of all time. That is not Al Horford on the 2015 Hawks. That is Shaquille O'Neal being afraid of Michael Jordan. There are tons and tons of stories, quotes, anecdotes of players being terrified of Jordan, from all-stars, role players, all the way to Hall of Famers and top 10 players. And to prove my point even further, Shannon Sharpe himself said Jordan was different and quote, godlike.
He don't look real. He doesn't. He doesn't. The first time I met him, I'm looking at him and I know he thought I was crazy because it's like he was levitating. And I know you're not supposed to play reverence and you're not supposed to be blasphemous like this, but he's like a god.
That is Shannon Sharpe, the biggest LeBron fan alive, being in awe of Michael Jordan. That just goes to show you guys, Jordan's it factor, his fear factor, his wow factor was off the charts and definitely higher than LeBron James.
Yeah. The problem that I have is that when you say Jordan is the GOAT, you do everything you can to discredit LeBron. If you want to say, look, Jordan got 5 MVPs, he got 6 finals, 6 chips, he got this many scoring titles, he scored this many points a game, he averaged this, he did this and that. Gotcha. It seems like when they try to make their point, I believe you can make your point saying someone is the best without trying to be disrespectful and discredit.
Now look, Shannon Sharpe's overall point of not downplaying discrediting players in a vacuum is fine, and I agree with it. But when it comes to Shannon, this take now is pretty hypocritical, as over the past 5 to 7 years, he spewed nonsense about Jordan countless times, saying he played weak finals competition, he was a quitter, he got praised for losing, and without Scottie, he wasn't a winner. The slander Shannon throws Jordan's way, I don't really care about it makes good content, but you can't claim the moral high ground when you yourself are throwing mud and discrediting players.
8 years of running the Eastern Conference, and ain't nobody said, man, ooh, I want to go back and skip. I was trying to find footage where people say, man, I can't wait to play the Cavaliers. Man, I can't wait to get the Miami Heat, because that's the matchup that I want.
Now, I want to be very clear in saying this. LeBron, of course, has been feared by players, coaches, teams, and even fans. That is undeniable. But compared to Jordan, the fear factor once again isn't the same. As when it comes to LeBron James and his era and being feared, for the most part, he played in the weak Eastern Conference. As the Bulls by 2012, they were cooked with D-Rose being injured. Boston by 2013, they were aging out. The Indiana Pacers, while competitive, at the end of the day, were being led by Paul George, who was 22 and 23 years old. And looking at 2015, the East was so bad, the Atlanta Hawks won 60 games. In 2017, Isaiah Thomas at 5'9" led Boston to the first seed. Once again, I'll say it, LeBron James dominated the Eastern Conference and put fear in half the NBA. But when it comes to the NBA Finals and losing 6 times, the fear factor is going to be there like it is for Jordan. As looking at the Bulls, winning 6 championships in 8 years, never losing the finals, is unassailable. Compared to LeBron James, who went 2-2 in Miami and 1-4 in Cleveland.
Everybody tried to stay out of the 7 or the 8 spot. Let's wait till the very, very last minute. Ask Toronto, ask DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry, ask Dwayne Casey. Did they fear LeBron James? I think you get to a man, I think you see, yes.
I think Shannon right there indirectly made my entire point about this video. As when it comes to LeBron James, he put fear into a bad Eastern Conference, and guys like Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Al Horford, etc. Compared to Jordan, who had Shaq, Reggie, Magic, Kevin Garnett, legit Hall of Famers being fearful of even talking trash to him. And looking at the so-called LeBron James era, one thing that hurts him is that he lost to his fellow superstars and great players, losing to Kevin Garnett, Dwight Howard, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, Steph Curry, KD, even Chris Paul. And guys like Kawhi Leonard, Kobe, and Giannis got one ring, if not multiple rings, on LeBron's watch. My overall point is pretty simple. LeBron James is feared. But like everything, there's levels to it. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.